I'm going to share we're going to go ahead and start recording. That's good. So we can put it up on the website the way we have in the past. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to get started. Okay. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Can I get a thumbs up? Yeah, great. Okay. All right. So again, for those who just joined us, this is a meeting of the local tour operators, tour guides, as an update on Lafayette Cemetery #1 reopening and the plan as it is going forward. So like I said, it's going to be pretty familiar. We're going to go through sort of the aperture of the program as we've been designing it. Like I said, a lot of it's going to be familiar. And then Marks is going to take over and discuss the input that we've been getting from folks. Okay, so to start off, since our first meeting was January 18th, I know that a lot of folks who are on right now have been at every one of these meetings, and thank you very much, guys. We've had a tour guide meeting on January 18th, on April 11th, and today we met with the Garden District residents on March 9th, and the tomb owners of Lafayette #1 on May 3rd and May 11th. We've gathered a whole big file of input emails. We've taken all of this into consideration and submitted it to the record. Again, thank you so much. So the program, as we had introduced at the beginning of the year, is still, like I said, I keep wanting to say the bones of it. The framework of it remains the same. Tour operators will be registering with the Division of Cemeteries. And we sent out an email, I think a few weeks ago, to start kind of feeling out interest, not only for Lafayette #1, but for the other cemeteries. We're getting some really good communication based on, we're really getting a good idea of interest and how we can meet everybody's needs with the responses to that email. So if you responded, thank you very much. The registration system, like I said, is going to be all 6 cemeteries. It's going to give us an opportunity to communicate with you guys. Like I've said in the past, it's going to give us a chance to give folks a heads up when there's a funeral, not only in Lafayette #1, but in other cemeteries, where we can check in with folks. We can have a much more collaborative process. And kind of keep the wheels moving. Also, the registration program that we've been discussing is going to include, being able to communicate the resources that we have at the Division of Cemeteries. So making some resources, records, historical things more available to the tour guides who are wishing to learn more about Lafayette #1, which is really exciting for us. So when it comes to Lafayette #1 specifically, the cemetery is going to be managed by staff. We have hired grounds patrol officers. They started on May 10th. Right now they're roaming through the cemeteries, checking rule compliance, making sure the gates are closed on time, opened on time. In Lafayette #1, they will be at the gate, admitting tour groups and individual visitors. Tour operators are going to register with us online. And so Marks is going to talk about this a lot more, but set up for time slots where different tours are going to have time, they're going to have access to the cemetery at specific times. The same hourly capacity remains the same, about 80 people in the cemetery per hour. The idea of that is to keep the density low, the atmosphere, reverential, and individual tourists will also be allowed into the cemetery cemetery as well as tour groups. And that all factors into that 80. And of course, we will not be accepting cash at the gate. All of this can be done online through QR codes. And we're putting together signage for that. This is a new thing. And in the discussion that we've had with the tour operators, we were sort of surprised by how amenable folks were to this. In discussion, we realized that, we know a lot of folks, felt like the capacity numbers that we were discussing were too small. In some discussions that we've had with tour operators, we thought, well, okay, well, the main and perimeter and the cross aisles are about 30 feet wide. They're almost 3 times as wide as the interior aisles. We could see allowing larger groups into those areas. And it seems so far, and again, we're here to get input. So we're, this is something we want to hear more about, how people feel about this. But we do think we can accommodate larger numbers if we limit the tours to the main aisle, the cross aisle, and the perimeter aisles. Registered tour operators are going to be provided with credentials by the cemetery division. Once you guys are registered with us, we're thinking it's going to be something like a little sticker, something that will identify folks who are registered with the cemetery division. We've also had some input about private tours. Honestly, right now with the input that we're getting, I think that we can, because we've learned a lot about your business over the past 3 months. We want to make sure that this program is as in touch with what, how your business already operates as we can make it. And we think that honestly with private tours, I know those are short notice, that we can accommodate those on a case-by-case basis. Mark's here, his whole job is going to be working with you guys and managing the tour program at Lafayette #1. And from the kind of discussions we've had so far, I think that private tours are going to fit into that pretty well. So this is where I'm going to say again, please thank you so much for all of your input. We've read everything. Like I said, I got my little file here. We've shared this with the upper management of the department. We're still thrilled to hear from you guys. Feel free to, obviously this is, we're going to open this up for discussion at the end, but also our emails will be at the end. And we're excited to hear more from you. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Marks from here. Just let me know when you want me to advance the slide. Do you want to just switch?
No, we're all David.
Hey y'all. So a little bit of progress since our last meeting. A public Zoom meeting was held between the residents of the garden, for the residents of the Garden District and the French Quarter and the city on March 9th.
I think he froze.
Oh, great.
I think you need to come.
Okay, I'll just switch.
Hi guys, I think Mark's froze here. I'm gonna have him come sit at my computer. Do you want to just?
Those meetings were very, very useful. We ended up, what we wanted to really get out of these meetings is a way to really understand, the tour operation business and the ins and outs and how it worked. It's really helped us a lot in forming this and everything we've been doing so far. Another thing, the walkways continue to be a priority. We've gotten a fair amount of feedback on those. They are kind of in bad shape, but we've had people looking for them. We've tried to get bids and things like that. And of course, COVID came and it's been a mess, but we're still working on that, and that is a priority. A new kiosk is in the process of being contracted and built right now at the Washington entrance. That is where we'll have GPOs staffing the entrance there, where people can purchase tickets and so forth. That'll be kind of our entry point. Nope. I tried. Got it. All right. So, some of the concerns that we've gathered are, the enforcement within the cemetery walls. We are addressing that with our grounds patrol officers. They will be on the ground in the cemeteries, as well as running the gate, all of those things. So we'll have people on the ground there all the time of open hours. The group size differential between the initial group and, like a garden district tour and the cemetery group size, which is what we've come to currently, is 9, and that includes the tour guide. So groups of 8 tourists, essentially. We know that it's difficult, and we'll find a way to work around it. Also, this is kind of our first opening and first year, and as we find out things, we can adjust as time goes on, and we will, we'll find different issues, what works, what doesn't work, and go from there. The resident feedback, we've gotten so much positive feedback from residents, and of course we've got negative feedback as well, but it seems like the community is very much in support of getting the cemetery back open, and just in a controlled manner, which is what we're all trying to do here. Let's see. Okay, there's been concerns about show clicks in the reservation system. I think those things will be alleviated when the contracts are finally done and we can get it open, and you kind of can see how easy it is to use. And the family visitation hours, we're still currently kind of working on that. Family wants the families there would like some private time, to tend to tombs and visit and things like that. So we're still kind of working on that too, but those will not affect any of the tour times, really. Our tour slots, of course, will be 10, 11, 12, 1 and 2, whereas the cemetery is open 9 to 3. So we're thinking we can fit some visitation hours, either early or late, but we will keep you updated on that. Let's see. So yes, the group size has been able to increase from 7 to 9. Granted that tour groups are to stay on the main cross and perimeter aisles, as Emily mentioned before. It seems like in our meetings with tour educators and operators that everybody was very agreeable to that. We actually didn't hear anything to the contrary. And the reservation system, ShowClicks, should allow all companies to be able to book time slots. So far, from what we've gotten from our tour operator sign-up sheet, we have been kind of looking through the preferences on days and times and everything, throughout the week. And it seems right now that everybody, I think, I think everybody is going to get their preferred tour slots. It's really looking good so far. Of course, we have a few more weeks of the registration being open, but right now it's looking very, very promising. So like I said, on ShowClicks, the city's still waiting on contracts to clear, but it should be in place over the next few weeks. We'll keep you updated on that as well. The cemeteries division has started the process of rule promulgation to the city council. A public meeting will be held in June for this process. But regardless, there will be an official 30-day announcement, 30 days at least before the cemeteries open, that will put out. Everybody will be made aware and kind of kept up on it. And ideally, Lafayette 1 will be open in late July. That's what we're aiming for. So for now, we're going to open it up to discussion. If we could just keep it at 2 to 3 minutes apiece. But everybody, if you'll raise hands, which is, I think, in kind of the taskbar. What happened? Sure did. Yeah, and reactions on your bar there. You can go up and we'll take questions.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Okay, Luke, I think you've had your hand up the longest. Go
I love technology, huh?
ahead.
Any remarks?
Yeah, hey, Luke.
Hi. So could you please clarify, and then I'll comment after. It's good to hear that the companies registering are going to have a preferred time slot, but could you clarify how many time slots a week they're going to have?
Right. Well, where we are right now, we're trying to make sure that we can fit everybody in. So once we get the final numbers on all the operators that have signed up, we'll kind of see where we're at. What we're kind of aiming at the beginning here is for tours to have half capacity per hour of that 80 right now. And we'll kind of see how that goes with, individuals and all that coming into. But so that essentially means that we would pretty much have 4 slots per hour for tour companies as it sits right now.
Okay, but how many days are you going to assign tour companies? Multiple days, or just one day a week?
Depending on how many sign up. As it looks right now, it's pretty flexible. But if we have like an influx of people signing up, we really want everybody to have a chance at it. So we'll know more, I guess, when our registration closes and we figure out exactly how many.
Okay, part of the challenge for us is registering not knowing, because as we all expressed to you, I mean, it's you've said a lot on this call that you've taken a lot of feedback from us, but to be perfectly honest, I don't see a ton of that feedback being reflected. I mean, I know the two strongest things that I was involved in those meetings with tour operators and guides. As you know, one of those 3 meetings, I was physically present. And I know the other people that were as well. And I know what was strongly expressed was that in order for us to make a viable tour offering, which costs several $1,000s to market and create, train our tour guides, continue to pay our tour guides the competitive and good wages that we do, continue to provide them the benefits that we do, workers' compensation, all that stuff, that it has to be more than once a week. It needs to be daily. And, we all expressed that 14 was really the bottom number. I'll tell you just blatantly, if you're allowing 8 tour guests once or twice a week per company, we're making maybe $100 of profit on that if we're lucky. So to create a tour offering that costs us a couple $1,000s to create, that's not going to work for anyone in the industry who has. The only people that will work for are sole proprietors who just do it themselves and don't have to actually operate a business. So if this really is a good faith attempt to allow what you all describe as reasonable and fair access to the cemetery, that is the feedback you have to take into account. And I know that's the feedback being given to you by 90% of the tour industry. If you don't do that, then and yet you say you've heard our feedback, then it does not seem like a good faith attempt to make this happen. It just seems like a way to make sure 90% of tour companies in the city aren't able to actually do this.
Well, so hey, Luke, it's Emily. With the number, like when we looked at the number, and I know we discussed this in person too, but like I think it's useful for everybody to hear. Like with the number of tour operators that are interested that we have signed up right now, we should be able to give people more than 1 day a week. We just don't, like, if we have 60 companies that want access, it's going to be a lot harder than if we have 20. And so right now it's hard for us to be able to determine just how many days a week we can give the folks who do want 7 days a week. Now I can say with the feedback that we have been getting, there are, some companies that only want 1 day, which, it's so at the end of the day, what we want is we want to be able to give everybody what they want without shutting anybody out completely. And for right now, it is looking like multiple days are certainly going to be possible. And we're pretty excited about that.
And that sounds good. You know, like we expressed, it will need to be a set schedule so that we can market that
Yes.
and discuss that. And it's hard to
Okay.
register without knowing. But, you
Yeah.
know, this will be my last comment, and this comment I made to you in the meeting as well. I hope it does work out that way, but I think it's on y'all. You're the ones administering this program. So I think it's on you to listen to the feedback from the community and us telling you, hey, for this to work, we have to have, you know, multiple days a week. We have to have a set number of people, and limiting your available spots to the number that will allow that to function. And then, you know, through the registration process, whatever, whether it's first come, first serve, whether it's something else, you know, making sure that the things you do have are viable. Because I can tell you right now, a lot of companies aren't signing up because they don't believe there's any point, because they don't think they're going to be able to make a tour offering with the 8 guests and the, I mean, it seems when you go to register that it's only going to be 1 day a week. That's certainly what I thought to do it.
Well, this was kind of,
But
I mean, so this was again something that we sort of discussed in person, where like before we thought we were going to end up having to do like something like a lottery, and really what this has turned out instead was finding out like, so when for those of you who have filled out the form, and or those of you who may fill out the form in the future, we ask for your first, second, and third choices in terms of what days you would want to be working in the cemetery.
And also how many.
Yeah. And how many days, because I think that we can, because there was like one person, like one group that only wanted Tuesdays, you know, and it looks like it fits. So that's what for right now, we really are trying to make sure that.
well, I think any company saying they only want 1 day is likely a very small company, and that's fine, or it's a sole proprietor or
Okay.
independent tour
Yeah,
guide.
no, we understand. We got you.
But any of the companies that actually, you know, pay employees and provide insurance and liability and W-2 forms and all the things we do to be a real professional industry, like I told you, I could care less what time I'm assigned in the cemetery. That's meaningless to me. I just need to be in there daily in order to make it a viable thing. And I need the numbers raised a little bit as well. But even if you raise it to the 14 that I was asking for, if it's 1 day a week, it's never going to work. And I know I speak for the vast majority of companies when I say that. So I hope y'all will hear that and listen to that. I believe it is on you to make this a viable program, and whether it means it's not open to everyone, if it's not a viable program for 80 to 90% of the industry.
I hear you.
And
We're gonna move on to the next person. But Luke, thank you. We hear you. It looks like Monique is the next person. That's coming up. Yeah.
Did you say Monique?
Yes, please.
Okay, hi, greetings, everyone. I was just wondering, does this work actually pertain to St. Louis 1, 2, and 3?
No, it does not. This is only for city cemeteries.
Okay,
So Monique, that's Lafayette Cemetery number 1, Lafayette Cemetery number 2, Valence Cemetery, Carrollton Cemetery, which is also known as Green Street, St. Mary's Cemetery, which is also known as Carrollton number 2, and Holt Cemetery. Those are our 6 cemeteries. And actually, for anybody who wants to kind of get a feel for what the city-owned cemeteries are, you can go to nola.gov/cemeteries. I'll put it in the chat, and that's the list of the city-owned cemeteries.
thank you.
All right, Libby.
Hi, thank you for listening. I wanted to just get the opportunity when I actually have your ear, because I have sent emails and I really haven't felt confident that anybody's reading them. I haven't gotten any response. I just want I want to know that the city understands that you are asking, we are business people and we have a reputation, and we are ambassadors of New Orleans to visitors, and visitors want to see the cemeteries. And it's bad business for us not to have a reliable tour and for us to have to be explaining to our guests, potential guests, oh no, we can't give the tour on that day. Or if we have a slot on one day and there's a rainstorm, we need to have the flexibility to rebook our guests. But if I'm not allowed to give tours the next day, or if I'm not allowed to give tours in the cemetery the next afternoon, then I have to cancel that tour and I have to refund the guest. And it's just not good business. So I think that there's not a strong understanding of how guests find us, how they book our tours, and what they are expecting. In a way, what the city is doing right now is asking us to do things that are not good business. And we need to be receptive and open and accommodating to our guests. I think that we can do it in a cooperative way, but what's being outlined here is going to put us into a snarled mess of problems with guests, bad reviews, bad business practices. And it's really out of our control. We're going to be doing bad business practices because we don't really have any choice because of the way this is set up.
Right. Well, this whole program is going to be, like I mentioned, it's going to be on a bit of a learning curve. Doing all this, like when we see these problems that need to be addressed, and some of the things that we're doing may not work, and we'll have to go with that too. But one of the main things we took in on feedback, especially in a lot of the personal meetings, is that we were thinking originally to do slots by the quarter. Every 3 months you get a new slot or whatever. But as it looks now, with the amount of people we have in there and the way that we're doing it, and the feedback we received is that tour companies would rather have that same slot year round. That way you don't have to change your advertising and things like that. So that is definitely an effect. Something like a rainstorm and something like that, depending on, what our capacity is that next day, it may be easy enough just to fit you in that next day too. That can be done, with no problem. But, what the main thing with, especially, the cemeteries is we're not really a business, we bury people and we help families around there too. So it's kind of a give and take, and it's taken a lot of back and forth and kind of figuring out what works for the best sense for the cemetery, as well as you guys, as well as the family, and as well as the city. And that's going to continue. We're taking input from a lot of different sides and doing the best we can to make it all work, and we'll continue to do that.
And if I can chime in, Libby, if you haven't, because I've read your emails, I apologize if you didn't receive responses, because I'm pretty sure that I did respond. But in any case, like, I have them printed out of my folder. Like, I've because you're, I'm familiar with your emails. Actually, yeah, I think it's like it's the first one in the folder. Right. So I apologize that if for whatever reason a response didn't get back to you, but we absolutely have read your input. And if you feel like submitting more, like, we're here for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I would like to offer, my input as a tour. Of course, obviously Luke and several other people here have offered their input from the tourism industry, but there seems to be a lack of understanding. Maybe we don't understand enough of what your job is, but I don't think that the city is understanding what we have to do to accommodate guests that are coming to New Orleans and want to see cemeteries. And we're certainly willing to be flexible, but at the same time, I would prefer, honestly, if I would prefer to not be in the cemetery if I'm going to have to do things that are going to get me bad reviews and make me have to refund guests eventually, because it's not good.
I totally hear you. Although I would say one of the things that I'm going to sneak into the frame here. I would say that one of the things, like, to your point about, like, the unpredictability about being able to be in the cemetery, to my recollection, before the closure, nobody ever got in it, like, a heads up about a funeral, and folks would just kind of show up to locked gates. That's never going to happen again. Like, we're going to be able to contact anybody who's registered with us. And I'm sure some of y'all are aware of this. Lafayette No. 1 gets at least one burial a month. Lately, it's been as much as once a week. And we can actually send out notifications that that we can give you all a heads up, even sometimes a week in advance, as soon as we schedule a service, so you can, so, you know, like, I can't make it not rain, but I can make sure that, you know, we're, you know, not putting y'all in a position where you're gonna show up to lock gates.
That,
And
that
we're
will
excited
be-
to do that.
Yeah, that will be nice. But the situation where someone misses their flight or there's a thunderstorm happens a lot more often than
Sure.
a funeral. And those, we need some flexibility to accommodate our guests, simply because it's a better business practice to have some flexibility. And we've all learned that, especially during the last 2 years, that you need to have some flexibility because unpredictable things happen.
I got you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
agreed.
Libby.
And you know, that's the kind of feedback that we're really like is so appreciated and that we're working with. You know, and to that point, like I said, you know, where we're at right now with capacity, like things like that, I am always, you know, of course, an email, a phone call away. And like I said, where we're sitting at right now, we ought to have the capacity per hour to be able to make some of these things work. And we'll go from there, you know, so you get rained out one day and then, you know, we'll see like what we have, you know, open for the next day, which may be wide open where you can reschedule and things like that. But we'll work with that as much as we possibly can. We definitely, we respect that flexibility.
Thank you, Libby.
All right, looks like iPhone is up next.
Person on an iPhone, we can't see what your name is.
Okay, it's probably Stephen Mora. How are you?
Yeah, hey.
Thank you for taking this. I wanted to find out if we're going to have to pay a fee per guest to be able to work with the cemetery. Also, I wanted to find out about walk-ups, and you said you'll have somebody there selling tickets. Who is that going to go to? How is that going to work?
Right. Well, okay. So everybody, all people coming in it will be $5 per person. And the selling tickets it's actually our grounds patrol officers charging that admittance fee to individuals that are not on a tour. And all of the money that is taken in from this goes into the cemetery trust. It's not going into the general fund. All that money is being set aside strictly for us, for the improvement of cemeteries, the improvements of our programs. Everything comes to us.
By city law.
Yep.
Okay, so you're saying it's $5 per person that we bring in is going to go to the city, correct?
To the cemeteries division. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the
yeah.
ticketing software takes a percentage,
Yeah.
but
That's pretty small.
yeah.
The price. And so is there going to be a set price with this?
What do you mean?
Well, in for St. Louis Cemetery number 1, they had a set price. We couldn't go over that for any walk-ups.
Oh, this is about walk-ups.
Yeah,
This is, yeah, okay,
yeah.
so this is a gate day question. Okay, so as we can't, there's a lot of reasons why we can't have a gate day model. And for anybody who, I'm sure everybody is pretty familiar with how St. Louis number 1 did gate day. Excuse me. So we actually, I mean, the way that gate day was done was possible for the Catholics, like they could do something like that. As a city, it's not really, it's not something we can do. And we're also allowing individual tourists to access the cemetery without a tour guide. So in terms of walk-ups, the rules are the same as just the ethical standards for tour guides. You know, like the solicitation of walk-ups is not something we want to see at the gate, like at all. You know, it's not part of the ethical standards for tour guides already. It was a big contributor to the atmosphere that you know, before the cemetery closed. If folks happen to pick up walk-ups, you know, far like outside of the entrance of the cemetery, that's their business, as long as they're not violating the rules for tour guides. But the city will not be teeing up walk-ups for tour companies.
Okay.
Did I
I'm with-
understand that right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well. I think 99% of us were really just sick of all of that happening at the gates.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'm still a little confused about, you said you'll be selling tickets there
Yes.
at the gate. So what's that? Is it gonna be for a scheduled time and you'll just go into the tour operators reservation system and book it, or I'm not sure I understand.
Well, we're not going to be booking for tour operators. It's going to be like similar to what you guys had at St. Louis #1, where the tour operator is going to walk up with their group, you know, at the preset time, all of the things that are already required. And our like all of that is already going to be in the ticketing software. There will be no exchange of cash at the gate. And when it comes to the tour guides, because something we heard from you guys, you know, obviously you need that flexibility. You can't say, okay, well, I'm going to show up for 10 people today. And then of course, like 3 of them don't show up, you know, you don't have to pay those $5 per person at the gate. Thanks to some of the input from everybody who's kind of explaining to us how the Catholics did it. We will basically just be tallying and sending and just like collecting by month on what a tour operator ended up actually using.
Yeah, that way if there's a cancellation, you're not getting charged for it. If it rains one day, you're not getting charged.
Yeah, and we
for
don't
it.
end up with just like a cascade of refunds, you know, like I don't think you guys want to deal with it. We don't want to deal with it.
Correct. And just real quick, one last question. You said there's funerals weekly now. Are these all throughout the day, or is it a certain time that these funerals happen?
Well, so I mean, it's typically what's been going on, like the past 3 months or so, we've had a lot more services in Lafayette #1. I think, you know, the vast majority of services we do are for cremated folks. So that it's usually a set time, but this is something that the tomb owners wanted, and honestly makes practical sense that the cemetery would be closed for the day when there's a service, simply because a service means an open tomb. And the, you know, the families felt some really strong feelings about the vulnerability of an open tomb before a service. So right now, the plan is the cemetery will be closed for the day during a service. I think that this is something that once the families kind of see that it's not so scary, we might be able to, you know, but like right now, that is the better safe than sorry situation. The cemetery will be closed for the day, and you will be notified, you know, well in advance. Lafayette #1 service is usually scheduled like more than a week in advance. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to notify you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Frank?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. Number one, once the schedule is set, is that going to be made available to the public, or at least to booking agents and front desk clerks and concierges? And number two, you want to take them one at a time?
It doesn't matter. Go ahead, Frank.
My second question is, once the system is up and running, everybody has their slot, are you going to allow, or will there be a mechanism to allow tour companies and operators to switch? For example, you know, most tourists book the same day or the day before, you know, so it's going to be really a nightmare to market it. So maybe I have 10 people that want to go tomorrow, but there's nobody scheduled on the slot that's assigned to somebody for tomorrow on that person. Will I be able to switch with that person?
That's a really good.
Yeah.
I mean, to this point, we've kind of like the way that we've operated is saying that we're not going to allow brokering of tickets simply because things can get really out of hand. But in terms, I mean, I think this gives us something to think about, Frank.
Yeah, because I mean, the way ShowClicks is set up, I mean, that seems to me, I'd have to talk to them a little more about it, but that seems like that could be a possibility. You know, with the software, we'll have to talk to, I guess, our kind of people on the ground here for ShowClicks. We're still waiting on those contracts. We're really ready to have it up and be able to kind of explore it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's a possibility moving forward, Frank. probably not right out the gate. But as we get into the rhythm of this, I think that there's, I mean, because again, like what we're envisioning is something that's like where you will have an open line of communication to us where we can sort of, you know, make things work as we need to. So yeah, I'm writing that down. I'm chewing on it, Frank.
Okay, what about my first question?
What was?
Sorry, will you repeat it, Frank? I'm sorry.
Sure. Okay, so let me give you an example. I own, in addition to being a tour guide, I own a tour booking agency, right? So people come into my office, call me and say, I want to do a cemetery tour this afternoon or tomorrow. Am I going to be able to look at a calendar and see who I need to call to book that tour?
You know, that's another really good question. I think if everybody would be agreeable to this, and I'll do some polling and see what, you know, once everybody gets registered and kind of see what everybody thinks. But I don't know. That's another thing we'll have to
These are
do
really
with
good
Showflex.
questions.
They
Thank
they really are. You know,
You have to remember, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure it's at least half, if not more. Tours are booked through front desk clerks at hotels, through concierge stands, and agencies like mine, the ones that aren't done online anyway. So that's going to be a problem for people like us.
Okay. Okay.
And what'll happen is if you don't make that calendar available, I'm going to have to spend 4 or 5 hours once a month calling every
Right.
tour operator in town, trying to figure
Right.
out what their day is.
Right. Right.
I mean, I think you have, Frank, in order to be a tour planner, it's a separate license, right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, like,
We should have.
this is, like I said, I think that would be complicating on us coming right out the gate green on this, but I mean, I don't see why. Well, I think we would have to discuss with the other operators that are registered with us if they're comfortable with
Us
sharing that
providing the
information.
schedule.
Like we
Yeah,
would want to
yeah.
check in on it, but like since tour planners are registered, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, let us look more.
Yeah. Thank you, Frank. That's really good.
Sure. And have you thought about what you're going to do if the city council eventually raises the number of tours? Like, as you know, most people that go into Lafayette Cemetery are on a garden district tour,
Yes.
of which
Right.
the cemetery is just a small part. So what are you going to do if that number is different than your number in the cemetery?
We're working with it as best we can, and we're going to keep working on it. And I think, you know, after, some of this goes through and we see how it works, I think it'll be easier to kind of make those numbers get closer together. But I think it's all in this process. It
We've-
really is.
We've been sincerely asking folks, and I know it's a hard thing, you know, I think it was Luke that said something about, or well, no, was it Libby who said something about kind of learning more about what we do? You know, our first priority is to protect a nearly 200-year-old National Historic Landmark. And in terms of, you know, like other cemeteries, other historic sites that allow tours, you know, there's usually, you know, capped on numbers in order to mitigate visitor impact. You know, so this is the cautious, you know, the way that we are proceeding with caution to make sure that we are protecting that resource. And it has put us in a position where we sincerely would love to find a way to, you know, work with what's going to end up, which we don't even know, you know, how the street ordinance situation is going to end up, because that's ground transportation. You know, we want to make it work and we want to protect the cemetery.
Okay. I mean,
Thank you,
I
Frank.
want to.
Libby, I think I saw something pop up in the chat just from, I caught my eye, how long the slots would be. So
Yes.
right now, we're looking at hour-long slots just to get it started, and we'll see how it goes from there. I know a lot of companies are not going to spend an hour in there, and you know, we'll adjust that as it goes along. But some people do, so we'll go from there.
Well, and part of that is also to allow flexibility for arrivals.
Right.
So like, if you have a ticket for 10 o'clock, we're not going to say like, no, you can't get in if you show up at 10:15, you know, like, that's why that number's at 80. Because there's not going to be there. We're going to have a grounds patrol officer going through the cemetery, making sure that we have like that nobody's harming resources, that everybody's staying in the aisle, stuff like that. But I'm not going to have this ground patrol officer run around and be like, you've been here for an hour, get out, you know. We're hoping that that's going to, you know, that this is going to create a good atmosphere of density. And furthermore, this is something that we got an email about too, with allowing individual visitors. This is going to allow people to do research in the cemetery if they want to. Like, I wrote my master's thesis in Lafayette #1. I sat in Lafayette #1 for 7 hours every day for an entire summer. Honestly, when St. Louis #1 closed, like, it was something that kind of broke my heart that people don't have that access to you know, experience the cemetery as a researcher. With the allowing individual people is going to allow that to be possible. And so, you know, so, but yeah, so that, you know, nobody's going to say if you show up at 10:45 with your 10 o'clock ticket that you know, you can't come in. You know, there's hopefully going to be some flexibility in terms of time.
Yes, and it will help us to plan what we can charge, how we can describe it to our guests, and if it's even viable. But so approximately an hour, 45 minutes to an hour is a basic range.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's ideally what we're shooting for.
Mhm.
We have some other folks who.
Okay, it looks like Karen is next.
Hey, Karen.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself, but I want to go, that helped clarify there. And I'm not a tour operator, I'm just a tour guide, but I understand the intricacies of the business operation. And I got to go back to what Libby said as well in the beginning, and it was very eloquent, Libby, in that we are ambassadors to the city. And this is complicating things tremendously for tour guides, tour operators to be those ambassadors, okay? And now, based on what you just said, part of this was to manage this influx of people, or people going into the cemetery, and as tour guides telling the stories there, talking about our burial custom. I get all that, but you're going to now just open the gates for other people to come in on unguided tours. And I thought, going way back, that was part of the problem as well, that people were going in on unguided tours. And are you gonna have more than one of these grounds officers patrolling to make sure that things aren't going bad?
We do have 3.
Okay.
So we do have 3 grounds patrol officers who will be, there will be at least 2 in the cemetery at any given time. And that's to start. In terms of allowing individual tourists, there's several reasons for that. We did put together like a brochure that, you know, for individual tourists, that keeps folks, that does not have any specific tomb as a stop, that all of the stops are on the main and perimeter aisles. You know, so that way that folks, you know, who just, I mean, because like every person on this call has heard somebody walk up to the cemetery and say like, well, can't we just walk around? And there's, you know, as far as we've seen this, you know, the issue was density. You know, when you have 3,000 people visiting a cemetery per day, you're going to have problems. And also tone. I think that before we shut out individual people and you know, and make it tour only. And this also, this also makes sure that if there's anybody that for whatever reason has not been able to get in touch with us to visit their own family members, people who are visiting, you know, from out of state and they have a great grandparent visiting in the cemetery. If for whatever reason they haven't been able to get in touch with us to get access to the cemetery, they will still be able to get in the cemetery. There's a lot of reasons for us to be allowing individual tourists, and for right now, that's going to be part of the opening plan.
Okay, so are those individual tourists in that 80 cap max any given hour? Because now you're going to delay my tour from entering as well. So there's all those things to consider. You know,
What
it
do you
does
mean
help to know.
delay?
Well,
the
no,
80
you're
the
gonna have
80 are
80 people per hour, right?
That includes individuals as well, but the tour operators, the tour companies are gonna get the first pick on all of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's
You
not
get
gonna be a
res- you
situation.
reserve those,
Okay,
yeah.
I think I misunderstood what you're saying. Yeah, no, there's not gonna be a situation where individual tourists are gonna push you guys out of
Yeah,
access.
yeah.
No,
Okay, but you could detain me from access if it's at capacity inclusive of the individuals that want to
No.
walk through.
You already have your time slots.
yeah, that's what
reserved.
this, yeah, that's what the slots are reserved for. Because we didn't want, believe me, one of the tour guides actually suggested like, just collect $5 at the gate and be first come, first serve. And we were like, well, that really screws up, the ability of people to plan a specific time for tours. So no, people who are given, like registered with time slots have reserved tickets for them to access the cemetery, or operators will. So there's not going to be a situation where you're going to come up expecting to be able to access the cemetery and it's going to turn out that you can't because, too many people came in at that moment. Like there's separate allotments.
Okay, I appreciate the response, but I still have to go back and reiterate what Libby originally said in that it's just gonna make for very bad business in many ways, or it has the potential. Let me say that. It definitely has the potential because it's just the whole matter of limiting to 8 people there to see the garden district, love to go into the cemetery. And so it's just going to be a nightmare challenge, I think, in with this model. Okay, but that's all I have to say, just to take that into consideration of how this impacts the actual operations of the businesses.
Yeah, I hear you, Karen. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Emily.
It's good to hear from you, by the way.
Well, it's good to see you. And I tried to get that extra key off of you, but you wouldn't give it to me. So
thank you for that. All right. Do we have any? Yeah. If you had your hand up before and you haven't been called on, would you please raise your hand?
I see. I think I see a few.
Really? I don't
Let's
see it.
see. Okay, it looks like Deborah.
Yeah, hey, can y'all hear me? I actually go by
Yeah.
my middle name, and for Carmel and everyone else that's been distracted by the chat between Luke and I, my apologies. Bottom line is I'm a tour guide. I do still need to renew my license, and I totally agree with you, Luke. And no, I am not being negative. I'm very passionate about this industry. I am passionate about our city. I am passionate about being that excellent ambassador. I want our guests to have a wonderful experience while we respect the resources of the cemeteries and the neighborhoods in which we are working, because as what happened in 2019, when we were asked to leave, then you have the pandemic, which is a double whammy. My goal is for us to find a positive solution. And yes, it will be a challenge for businesses to be able to make money, but do it ethically, give our visitors a great experience while respecting families and respecting the cemeteries. And yes, I totally agree, Luke, with the training. But the problem is there are many companies who feel you go and observe a seasoned tour guide, then you are thrown in the very next tour by yourself to lead a tour. That is unacceptable. Companies must change the way they train. Our licensing needs to change. There is so much that needs to change to improve the tour company industry and how we provide that experience to our guests. So attacking the tour guide, not the best way to do it. Businesses are doing everything they can to make money now more than ever. Understood. Overhead, workman's comp, insurance, totally get it. I used to work for a staffing agency, but instead of criticizing me, Luke and Carmel, again, my apologies for the distracting typing between us, and I totally understand, but I am being positive because this is something that is very passionate to me. And I want a best solution for us all so that we are not asked to leave the neighborhood, because some dollars are better than $0. And I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So
Thank you.
I don't see any raised hands, but I see Carolyn. I saw in the chat. I'm sorry if I missed anything in the chat. It's hard for us to keep up,
Yeah,
but
no problem.
But I see that Carolyn Sinclair said, do you have a thought about how to deal with folks that have, and then it kind of cuts off. Carolyn, are you still with us? Did I lose you, Carolyn?
Sorry, yes, I'm here. I thought I went back and continued it. I hit.
You probably did. I might have lost. I'm sorry.
I hit enter too quickly. Scroll down on the next couple ones, Emily.
Can you just tell me what you said?
No, I don't remember. I've been so focused on what everybody's saying.
Yeah. Have we? Okay. So do you have a thought about folks, how to deal with the folks that have a garden district 4 that want to go into the cemetery?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we're still, I mean, right now, the cap on the street is going to be different than the cap in the cemetery.
Okay.
Personally,
Excellent.
as a person who's worked for 10 years in cemetery preservation, I can say pretty confidently historic cemeteries are not streets. And you know, like we want to preserve the cemetery as it is, but we also get that this puts us in a place where we do have a puzzle here that we would really love to be able to come up with a better way to deal with this. And I don't know yet how. Like we've been asking, having 20 people in the aisle of a cemetery is not, it's not feasible in my opinion. At this point, it's just, that's a lot. And it also, so, anybody who has thoughts about this puzzle, I'm all ears.
And you
but
know,
right now,
honestly, to everyone listening, Save Our Cemeteries may be unique in this. I don't know that we're the only ones who do a strictly cemetery tour. So,
honestly, Carolyn, you may be.
Yeah, we can talk offline, Emily, and figure this out because it seems like it's not fair to take the time to talk while everyone else is on board here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn.
I think Frank has his hand back up.
Yeah, I just had a thought. You know, what I keep hearing you say is that we're going in uncharted waters and you're open to making adjustments and changes as all this unfolds and as we learn more. I'm wondering if you, the Division of Cemeteries, would be willing to make a commitment to do a 1-year review about this. Or maybe
Absolutely, Frank.
We're willing to do a 6-month review.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's how we learn from this.
I mean, I think you know, this has been, I personally, you know, feel like we have a really good chance to create something that is sustainable, that protects the cemetery, that benefits the neighborhood, that enriches the people who have family buried in the cemetery, that enriches the tour guides that are interpreting the cemetery. And I think absolutely having, Frank, I'll commit to a 6-month review. Is that all right?
Perfect. That's awesome. I think that will alleviate a lot of people's fears.
Okay.
Right. Okay, looks like iPhone again.
I think it's Steven.
iPhone, it's actually Chad with Tours by Steven.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, I know.
And it's Steven.
Also known as iPhone. Yeah, guys, quick little clarification. I know we just asked this, but is a tour company allowed to list that experience at the price they wish, or do you have a set price that we can only go up to?
No, we do not want to get into y'all's business. No, it's just
Absolutely
$5 per person that comes in, and that's all for us.
Yeah, that's the overhead that benefits the cemetery. That's how we sustain this program. But no, absolutely not. We are not interested in telling y'all what to charge your private client.
Right.
Awesome. And then you said that you would track that, those numbers, those totals, and then you would invoice, I'm assuming?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's the intention. We're still, this is something like the software program is really versatile, but we haven't had our hands on it yet to be able to just figure out exactly how we're going to communicate that with you guys. But this is one of those things that we looked at the old Catholic cemeteries model, and it seemed to make a lot more sense than, having y'all pay advance and then just like endlessly refunding you.
Right. If it's canceled for any reason, anything like that, this just seems like an easier situation for everybody.
Okay, I appreciate that. And one final question, how do we get
someone added to your distribution email list. Stephen's not on it, is why I'm asking.
Okay, well, the list that we have been using is from GTB. I've noticed like sending out some emails, there's like some misput or double, emails and things like that too. If you wouldn't mind, just quick fix, my email is right here on the screen right now. If you'll email me, I'll add you to the list and we'll go from there. Yeah.
And
Thank you, guys.
yeah, thank you. And also just a reminder, NOLA.gov/cemeteries, on the right side, the registration forms on there. Nothing is set in stone. This is us understanding who is interested, what they want, and it helps us start workshopping how to make sure everybody gets what they're looking for.
Sure. And if I could, I'm sorry, one last thing, just we haven't not registered only because we thought it was important to reach this point, just to get a little more information about your structure. So we asked
that's why we kept it open.
Yeah, so we asked you to take that in consideration when, people start to register at this time.
I think I saw something in the chat. There is not an issue of like who got there first by any means. Yeah, we're not, this is like, it's extremely important that you guys know how we make sure that everybody gets access. We don't want anybody to feel that they got shorted. We will sooner give everybody a little than give one person a lot. But in any case, like that process is intended to be transparent.
Thank you, guys. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Shelley.
Hey, Shelley.
Okay, hey, I forgot to unmute. I'm just elaborate on what you were just saying is, I'm not a tour guide, I'm with the Garden District Association, but so can you tell me of all the groups that are, as you're calling, registering, they are all legitimate tour companies, correct?
They're all registered licensed tour operators, yes.
Okay, so it's not tour guides that are, can tour guide register for this too, or just tour companies?
Right now, we're doing tour operators only. It's again, it's how the archdiocese did it, and it really it makes things a lot more manageable. Also, in terms of the way that the licenses and the registrations work, it really is like a tour operator license is what a business needs to be able to operate tours. So yeah, that's what we're operating off of, people who have current tour operator licenses and current insurance.
Okay, and how many of those companies are there? How many have registered? And
I was going to say, because the actual list of the
registered
city is like 200.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, so far, I think we're at about, what was the last number? Like 20,
maybe 25.
Yeah, 25 or so far we have registered.
Okay, and if the cemetery is open from what to, like, when do the tours start?
So
9
the
a.m., 10
cemetery will
a.m.,
be,
what's start and stop?
okay, yeah, the cemetery will be open 9 to 3, Tuesday through Saturday. And tours will start at 10 a.m. and the last tour will have the slot of 2 p.m. I think. Actually, I'm sorry, the cemetery is open 9 to 4. So the first tour slot will be 10 a.m. and the last tour slot will be 2. So that makes for 5 a day. Yeah.
Wait, if it's open till 4 and they're 1 hour, isn't the last one at 3?
Well, we're leaving that first hour from 9 to 10 and 3 to 4 open just to get the gates open, anything for the GPOs that they need to do to set up. And I mean, that's how it is right now. But also, as mentioned earlier, that may be the perfect time for family visitation, things like that. So we're kind of leaving those open to be flexible right now.
Well, and also for, like, say, the Garden District tour that wants to pop into the cemetery for 15 minutes and shows up at 3:30, like that, that's within that slot.
Okay, so you basically have 4 or 5 slots a day, right?
Well, 5
Sort
time
of.
slots.
Time slots. So
Time,
there's still
time
80 people
slots.
coming in.
Yeah, there still could be 80 people in that 1 hour. Yeah.
So that,
okay, but if you have 5, let's say you have 5 time slots and you have how many, if everybody's limited to how many people?
9. including the tour
9,
guides. that'd
okay.
be
So
groups of
it
eight,
basically,
essentially.
it basically means, given a, like, we're gonna start out with the idea of just like an even split between individual tourists and tour guides. So that means, say, 4 different companies operating at the cemetery in each hour.
Or 5, really.
5.
Yeah.
I'm bad at math.
Okay, so it seems like with that numbers, which the numbers that you have now, you obviously have to account for anybody else coming in, but it seems like most tour operators could have 1 slot a day, right?
That's what it's shaping up to
Looks
be.
like that may
Yeah.
be possible, but we don't want to, we don't want to really make that decision until we know everybody that's interested. Because if we have 60
Sure.
companies that send us
Sure.
something, we're certainly not like what somebody else was concerned about before. We certainly we don't want to be like, oh, well, company X got here before you, so they get,
Exactly,
five
but,
days a week.
but at the,
nothing.
at the worst case scenario, you're talking about each company could have maybe 3 slots a week. So if the tour companies are scheduling, then they could probably safely, I mean, and I'm not trying to tell everybody how to do their business, but it doesn't seem like, there's like a little tiny window. It seems like a pretty decent sized window to schedule. I don't know, am I wrong about that?
No, that's what we're
That's
aiming
what
at.
that's
Yeah.
what we're feeling hopeful about, but
Yeah.
we don't want to say too definitively until, like I said, until we
We-
know everybody that's interested.
Yeah. Okay, all right,
Thanks, Shelley.
thank you.
Let's see, I don't see more hands up. Let's see.
I see. Sheila, hey Sheila, I saw that she asked what insurance is required in order to register. It's the same insurance that's required for tour operators. I can't recall what it is like right off the top of my head, but it's the same that's required for having a tour operator license. We're having so much fun, we don't want to wrap up. Is there any other questions that we can answer for y'all? Well, it looks
No, we're good. And y'all will follow
Okay.
up with everybody. And if we weren't on the list, the action list, if we sent you something in the chat privately, Emily, with our email, then you
Yes.
will include us. Thank you.
And also, my email's on here, Mark's email is on here.
Yeah.
We're happy to hear from y'all. As we move forward, we really appreciate your input. We really
Thank
do.
you.
Thank
Thank
you so much
you.
for sharing your time. We
Yeah.
had like 80 people show up tonight, so thank you so much for showing
Yay.
up, y'all.
Yeah. I'll answer one more thing. I just saw something pop up. The kiosk on the Washington Avenue gate is actually going to be inside of the cemetery. If you're looking like you're coming through the Washington gate, there's that azalea bush kind of to the right there. That is where the kiosk will be set up.
And it's okay. So Shelley asked about this too. This computer is not the best, and so I'm not sure if I can drop this in the chat. But the kiosk is going to be a replica of the shed that used to be there where that azalea bush is. So that was there from the 1890s until the 1940s. From the one photograph that we have of it, it looks like it was dark green. It's going to be like something like 8 by 10. I'm hoping to get a defibrillator put in the dang thing, something. Well, I mean, and just,
Yeah.
so we
Good idea.
Yeah,
we have
great idea.
captured
Yeah.
the kind of visitation that we're expecting.
But
So,
how
and it's also
big,
gonna be
how big will it be, Emily? How
something
big?
like 8 by 10.
8 by 10,
Okay.
yeah.
So when you walk in, you won't see that tomb right to it's on the right side, right?
On the right side, if anybody remembers back from the 80s, there used to be like an interpretive sign there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Here, Mark's answering some questions. I'm gonna see if I can find this.
Okay, everyone's gonna
That's
get
okay.
with that.
You can send it later. It's nothing urgent.
Okay.
Um,
I see another one there. We're not sure on the date exactly that this is expected to start, but we will send out a 30-day notice before the cemetery opens. So we'll keep everybody abreast of all this going on.
that's a hard line. We will not be opening the cemetery without a public 30-day notice. I don't care if we're ready to open the cemetery tomorrow, there will be a 30-day notice so everybody can get their ducks in a row. Nobody wants to spring this on you guys.
Great. Thank y'all for doing such a good job. And I think y'all included everybody from our standpoint anyway, so thank y'all.
Well, we're
Thank
really
you.
grateful for your input. Okay, in the future, we're gonna post somewhere this really great 1949 photograph of this lovely little shed that was up front, or you guys can see when we build a replica. Well, so thanks again for coming out, guys. Please contact us with any questions you may have. And you know, from I'm sure both me and Mark's, thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank y'all.
Thank y'all. Have a wonderful night.
Y'all
Thanks, you
too.
too.
Thank you.